Blackwater. You take a look at the box and it looks like every dime a dozen generic military shooter that plagued the Xbox 360, but the big story with this game isn't what the game is, it's who, because Blackwater is licensed on a group of real-life people, and those real-life people are real-life war criminals! Blackwater was a private military contractor that was hired by the United States government to provide security services during the war in Iraq, up until their license to operate was revoked following the Nisour Square massacre. On September 17, 2007, the Blackwater operative team Raven 23 opened fire on Iraqi citizens in a crowded city square. 20 innocents were injured, 17 civilians were killed, and 2 of the dead were young children. And that was only the tip of the nearly 200 shooting incidents the group racked up over 2 years, to say nothing of widespread accusations of cover-ups and gun running. So riddle me this, Batman! You're the PR department for a private military contractor that just got caught publicly massacring civilians and is pretty much completely unhireable. What do you do to try and salvage your company's reputation? Apparently you make a shitty propaganda video game to show just how gosh darn awesome your war criminal co-workers are. A video game made by Zombie Studios of those horrible Saw games, no less. I just will not leave these people alone! I'm not making this up. The Blackwater video game came out 4 years after Nisour Square. This is not a coincidence. It was purposefully made as propaganda to improve the group's image. And just to pile on to the madness, Blackwater the company changed their name over 2 years before the game's release. So the propaganda game was advertising a company that technically didn't exist anymore. I'd ask why not change the game's name to reflect the company, but something tells me a game called G Services probably would have sucked worse. Anyway, the first thing I do whenever I start a game is go into the settings and make sure everything is set right, and something in the options catches my eye. A Blackwater FAQ. It starts in with how private military contractors have been a regular part of armies since before the Revolutionary War. Then it mentions repeatedly that they were involved with aid after Hurricane Katrina, claims they've never lost a single VIP, and suspiciously says not much of anything of what they did in Iraq and Afghanistan. Like I said, propaganda game. The game is set in the fictional country of Hani in the Middle East. A group of 4 Blackwater soldiers are sent to chat with this guy, who assigns them to protect some kind of aid convoy. Our main characters are Baird, a guy with a machine gun, Devin, a guy with a worse machine gun, Eddie, a guy with a sniper rifle, and Smash, a guy with a shotgun who cracks a few bad jokes.
Come on, Baird, I'm riding shotgun with a shotgun. I'm not sure it gets any more quality than that.
These guys are all one similar lack of personality spread across 4 people, and I could only ever distinguish them by what gun they use. We are given zero introduction to who any of these people are, what's going on, or why we're supposed to care about anything. Every line of dialogue is just generic military speak and jargon that just washes out into a droning noise. Anyway, the convoy gets attacked, and the game is a rail shooter that starts with, okay, what the hell am I doing? Where's the damn reload button? Why don't they tell you what any of the buttons do when you start? Why are bullets flying at me from off-screen where I can't shoot the guy? Is there cover in this game or not? I'm getting shot and I can't friggin'— wow, you do not have much health. So, what the hell just happened? I don't know how you make a rail shooter confusing, but here we are. The game does have a training mode, but it's hidden under the quick play menu option, which is actually a level select that you have no reason to pick when you start up the game. And the tutorial still doesn't mention how to reload. Alright, you aim your gun with the left analog stick like regular games, but the right stick moves your character. You have to manually turn yourself side to side to face enemies that are hidden off screen because that's such a damn fun mechanic. And you also use the right stick to manually steer yourself behind cover. Yeah, in lieu of a take cover button, you use a second stick to try and shove yourself behind any nearby terrain that might block some bullets. It sounds like a fresh and innovative spin on the rail shooter genre, except head to toe the controls suck balls. Moving your character is kinda sorta running on inverted controls that you cannot change, and the movement is so damn awkward that I just never got used to it. Moment to moment, you're just never sure where you'll actually move when you push the right stick. Like pushing the stick right will move your body to the right, but it will also turn your perspective to the left. Not only is it hard to keep track, but I swear that sometimes the game just switches directions on you. So you have this perpetual awkward moment where before you can take cover, you have to fumble the stick trying to figure out how. And the cursor movement on your targeting reticle is garbage slow and cannot be adjusted. So it's lucky then that the aiming cursor is the size of a house! The game runs on some kind of bizarre auto-aim where you get that reticle positioned into an enemy's general direction and just kind of hope that the game hits them. And this auto-targeting is just inaccurate enough that hitting a moving target is nigh impossible. My favorite weapon in the game is the shotgun, probably just because it kills in one hit and has the least problems with hit detection. Now, the game revolves around a squad of 4 main characters, so you're probably wondering, do you actually have multiple players? Are there team mechanics woven into the game? Are there tactics or strategy to playing as an elite squad of specialized soldiers that dominate the battlefield? No! You do switch control between the 4 squad members as the game goes on, but you only switch to strictly predetermined characters at strictly predetermined points in each level. 99% of the time, you have absolutely zero say in which team member you're controlling. So sometimes you get smashed with the kick-ass shotgun that's satisfying to use, reloads quickly, and tangibly shoots exactly where you pointed, and an equal amount of the time you're stuck with Devin and his stupid-ass machine gun that fires 6 bullets at once to where it has to reload every 2 seconds! Seriously, I took to using Devin's handgun that you're only meant to whip out as a desperation move because it deals more damage, it's more accurate, it carries more shots, and it reloads faster. How do you botch up the balancing of a shooter to where a shitty sidearm pistol whoops the crap out of a big-ass machine gun? But aside from that sidearm pistol, there are no alternative weapons or loadouts. There are no item or weapon pickups. You can't arm your squad specifically. Each character has one gun that you're stuck with. Even the shit-piss Rambo game got multiple weapons right. That's the basic feature of shooter games. But the most baffling thing about switching characters is the way that you jump to a new squad mate's perspective. The 4 characters don't stick together as a group and hand off control one at a time. Almost every level, the entire group is split up. So when you switch from one character to another, you friggin' teleport clear to the other side of the map. You just warp blindly from one screen to the next with zero sense of where you are or where you just came from. There is zero continuity. This not only butchers any sense of immersion that you may have had, it makes the action less comprehensible than a Michael Bay movie. You'll have no sense of the terrain, progression, stakes, the enemy's threat level, how many villains there are, how deep in trouble your squad is, because you just blindly teleport around the map at random. The whole game is just one anonymous, disconnected shooting gallery after another, and it's impossible to follow what's happening. Playing as Eddie the Sniper is a mind-boggling experience, though. I've played Silent Scope in the arcade and the hilariously wrong-headed Game Boy Advance port, and it's a simple and compelling setup. Observe the screen for enemies, take them out with speed and accuracy so that they can't shoot you back, plan your targets so that they go as long as possible without realizing that you're there, unobtrusive scope so you can aim and watch the field at the same time, or other shooters with a sniper function have a zoom-in button for when you're ready to line up a shot. Blackwater does none of that shit. You aim your cursor at a group of enemies and hold it there for a few seconds, and then it zooms in automatically so you can start shooting them. The zoom in is so disorienting that it's hard to tell where the enemies actually are. Not that it matters, I got shot at once the entire game playing as the sniper, and these segments are not timed. You can go to the bathroom to take a 15-minute Taco Bell indigestion shit and leave the game running. You will not fail anything. Enemies completely fail to notice that you're there. Even if you blow their friend's brains out in plain view a few feet away from them, none of them will even flinch. And often in these sniper segments, you're supposed to be covering for one of your teammates, but as you can see here, Baird just stands out in the open, getting shot, not flinching indefinitely. I guess we're just meant to infer that this particular group of enemies is blind and deaf and can't hit a single stationary target. So what the hell is the point of adding the sniper sections if you can nap through them and the game doesn't care? I don't know. I played the game on normal difficulty, and there are a lot of cheap deaths that the game springs on you. Several areas where you just have no cover, or enemies can shoot you whether you're in cover or not. The game constantly flashes up notifications about checkpoints, and it's lying out its ass because there aren't any! Dying always boots you back to the start of the level, which sucks when it only takes a few hits to kill you and you can't always block it. And some encounters are so poorly designed that you'll get shot while in transit to the next screen to where you spawn in almost dead. Hope you got memorized the directions to dive into cover, jackass! You have grenades, but not really any idea on how to aim them, so it's kind of luck whether or not they actually help you. But the real pain in my ass is the enemy roster. Almost every enemy in the game is just a basic soldier with a basic gun. Sometimes there's a leader that you can shoot to make groups run away with no indicator what they are. And I think maybe the enemies can throw grenades just for show because they never actually hit me with one. The one and only real special enemy that they decided to add is a rocket launcher douche canoe that virtually kills you in one hit. They look identical to regular enemies with absolutely nothing in the HUD or level or model design to point them out to you. Most of the time, your first clue that one's in play is when you just explode out of nowhere. These are the rat bastards that'll constantly send you back to start with zero warning unless you get insanely lucky and just happen to spot one as soon as they spawn. Hell of a recruitment tool the game is! Join Blackwater, hang out with wisecracking cool dudes, help liberate Middle Eastern countries, get blown the fuck up out of nowhere by cruel fate regardless of how good a soldier you are! Actually, that reminds me, given the scandals that ended up sinking Blackwater, it kinda tickles me that you never, ever see any civilians in any of the game's environments. Not even in the cutscenes. Not even a single friendly local soldier that's on your side. You really only have the game's word for it that this country even has people to save in the first place. The game's technicals are a mess too. You can make a little sub-game out of seeing how long it takes for all the textures to pop in during cutscenes. Subtitles will often just cut out and fail to appear. The music cuts out all the time. The background will vanish. The cutscenes will somehow have frame rate problems, and some entire lines of dialogue will just refuse to play.
Roger that, Smash. We're heading out.
Curiously, the guy who gets muted the most is Smash, like even the game thinks that he's not funny. Some levels have this bizarre staticky noise running over them that I think is supposed to make it sound like a bustling city, but it just sounds like some rambling moron on a 50-year-old intercom that won't shut up.
Move out, Debbie. Roger that, Baird. It's all you.
Yes, sire.
There are tons of screens where the game just slows down for no apparent reason, and I can't tell if it's a deliberate stylistic choice or this obviously unstable game struggling to run. And sometimes they'll have people run across the stage, but they couldn't be bothered to actually make a running animation, so they just speed up someone walking so it looks like a Benny Hill routine. But the biggest glitch that I ran into was when I tried continuing the game after a level had ended, and the game failed to load the next level, leaving me stuck at a black screen with rain over it. Kind of peaceful and relaxing, I guess. I can still shoot and throw grenades into the void. Seems to be a wall or a corner or something off to my left. Hello, darkness, my old friend. But the game isn't all crappy cover-based shooting. Sometimes you get a hold of a turret that blows the crap out of everything in sight for a few minutes, which is fun, but there are only like 3 or 4 short bits of this in the entire game. But you can also bust down doors, hop over obstacles, and slide under hazards in the game world using QuickTime events. Behold! Okay, they're not quick. A good chunk of them aren't timed. And it's arguable if they're events. You just push a button to unpause the game. Yay. The game's story is virtually non-existent. You spend the first 3 levels escorting an aid convoy to some United Nations building, and at one point you find out they hired some other loser PMC security firm and they all got killed. Noobs! And wait a minute, the driver that you rescue in level 2 is the same character model as the training officer, right down to the sunglasses. They seriously didn't have any extra models lying around. He looks so blatant! There's a bad guy called General Limbano who's taking over the country, and a Mr. Okuro who's holding a press conference that I guess will stop that. And then you have to stop the anonymous bad guys that you know nothing about from attacking the compound for a few levels. During these stages, Eddie the Sniper gets blown the hell up and is perfectly fine 2 minutes later.
Back on the job already, huh?
Time off was never my style.
Come on! Even a Schwarzenegger character would be a little banged up after that. Then Mr. Okuro and Dila are captured by Limbano, and I could not remember who either of the hostages are for the life of me because this story is so paper thin and barely present, and you have to go save them. Hey, wait, that's the same training instructor character model again for the helicopter pilot, and I'm pretty sure with the same voice to boot! How many twin brothers does this dude have? This first level going after the convoy is completely out of control. It has you switching characters every few seconds. Often you'll shift over to a new teammate, literally shoot 2 or 3 people, and then warp to someone else, and you'll do this like a dozen times in a row. I have no idea what's going on. And I had to redo this level a lot because not only are there rocket launcher bitches ambushing you, you have to fight a helicopter using a brand new rocket launcher weapon with no introduction to how it works, while tons of soldiers give it backup.
Got tangos on the opposite rooftop.
Oh, you sack of crap! I basically got one shot killed there! This game sucks! Okay, for my own sanity, I'm going to assume that this achievement was deliberate trolling by Zombie Studios. You rescue this man, whom I've completely forgotten who he is, but now you have to rescue 2 more people who've been taken to an evil hotel or something. I swear I tried to pay attention to what's going on, but this game is like scientifically designed to melt your attention span into butter. And the first hotel stage is 10 friggin' minutes long with no checkpoints, by the way, because eat me! The second level of the hotel is where I actually got stuck for a while. You come to this big shootout arena where there are tons of enemies, and you keep getting hit from behind cover with no idea where it's coming from. This comes like 5 solid minutes into the level, so you have to slog through a lot of fights to get back here and retry it, and I just can't figure out what's killing me. You wanna know why I keep dying? Because a rat bastard with a rocket launcher is placed right behind the one piece of cover that you're given to where you'll never friggin' see him! And he can nuke off most of your health in one shot, whether you're in cover or not. So you just keep dropping dead out of nowhere. This game really sucks! You rescue the ambassador, and he gives a speech that Blackwater wrote about how awesome Blackwater is for saving fictional people that Blackwater made up in this game that Blackwater designed and commissioned, and he tells you that Limbano wants to keep the area in a state of constant war so that he can raid and sell off the UN aid supplies. Now you have to rescue that girl who was with the guy in the blue turban at the start of the game. I don't know who either of these people are or why they're important. So your squad of 4 people decides to invade Limbano's central headquarters with no plan and no backup to rescue that one lady. This plan didn't work out for Superman in Apocalypse War, but he didn't have the power of propaganda riding on his side! I think my favorite part of the game is that once you rescue Dila, she spends most of her time telling Smash that he's an unfunny dickwad. Although with the weird prancing poses that Smash makes in several of the cutscenes, I don't think he's interested in her anyway. You actually do run into General Limbano. The main villain pops up for about 15 seconds and does nothing, and nobody in the group tries to shoot him despite everyone knowing he's the bad guy. So apparently Blackwater will open fire on civilians, but just trade one-liners with the evil general in clear line of sight who's ruining a whole country. The group loses their evac helicopter, so good thing there's about a dozen clones of their pilot still running around, but they find out bad guys are massing at the university, so they fight their way to the university and steal a vehicle to get the hostage back to the UN compound. And then you win. No, I'm not kidding. Game's over. It just cuts off out of nowhere. The people who've been sending you on missions say that the people are rising up against Limbano on their own, because now all of a sudden this country has civilians, and then the credits roll. There is no final boss or climactic final showdown. An invasion of the compound that you were told about never happens. There is no final siege on the villain's university headquarters like the dialogue seemed to be implying. You don't even fight the main villain or see him defeated. Your final boss is another anonymous screen with one or two normal guys. The game just friggin' cuts off with nothing resolved, and the credits play in dead silence. The game's only 2.5 hours long, and I'm starting to think that it's that short because Blackwater were a bunch of cheap bastards and the devs ran out of money. That, or maybe Blackwater figured out that having a propaganda game advertising a company that doesn't exist anymore was kind of pointless and pulled its funding. I don't friggin' know, but they still tease a sequel with a post-credits scene. It's literally just Baird going, "We've been reassigned, pack up your shit," and that's it. Was all this the inspiration for the Order 1886 or something? Please support our game. We might tell an actual story next time. There are a few attempts at replayability. There are collectibles to shoot in the environment that, near as I can tell, don't do shit. There's a leveling system which I didn't think was doing anything until out of nowhere I was told that Devin had more health regeneration now. And side note, only one character beyond your control gets an upgrade at a time. Eat shit. I think you're supposed to level grind the campaign a few dozen times so you can get higher scores for online leaderboards, because the instruction manual makes a big deal about how Blackwater only wants the very best operatives, even though online leaderboards usually get hacked by people to claim they have scores of 1 billion. Anyway, they do try to make the game less monotonous by having branching paths through the levels, but all they do is slightly alter a few encounters, which you'll barely notice since the gameplay is so monotonous. Loads of collectibles are only on really specific branching paths to ensure that you'll continuously miss them, and sometimes the choice is literally, do you want to do this screen standing 8 inches to the left or 8 inches to the right? There are also 3 so-called competition maps where up to 8 players that have absolutely nothing better to do pass the controller one at a time and play 5 screens for a high score. That's your multiplayer mode. Passing the one controller around a bunch of bored people is your entire shit-ass multiplayer mode. Why no co-op in a rail shooter that's built around a squad of soldiers? Why is this a restrictive rail shooter? Why are the controls so sluggish and unresponsive and completely not able to be calibrated? Well, I have a little gem of information on this game that I've been sitting on until now that'll make all the pieces fit together. You want to know why this game plays so damn awkwardly? It's because of the Kinect. Yeah, the Kinect, the Xbox 360's motion tracker camera that infamously barely friggin' works. Blackwater was designed from the ground up to be played with a Kinect, with controller support seemingly only being added in begrudgingly and at the last minute, which explains why vast portions of the game felt like they barely friggin' worked. The huge targeting reticle and batshit sniping mechanics, because it assumes that you're aiming with the palms of your hands. The movement and cover mechanics that barely work, that's to track you moving around the room and physically ducking your body down behind cover. The multiplayer that isn't multi, because the Kinect can barely handle 1 person at a time, let alone 8. And the weird animations that play when you do the pointless single-button, generously timed QuickTime events, you're supposed to be jumping and ducking around in your living room, and they aren't timed because the Kinect is going to have trouble reading them anyway. And so, as much as I don't want to do what comes next, it must be done. Welcome to my newly refinished basement. About doubles the living space of the house, has another bathroom and shower, and big and light enough that the Kinect has a snowball's chance in hell of actually working right. That last part was purely incidental. Forget to look up. Okay, my fan's back there, so I'm not going to clonk myself on the head or smash the fan or anything. Well, even with a pretty much optimal setup for the Kinect to work as well as it can, Blackwater still plays exponentially worse than it does with a controller. There's about a full 1 second delay to the cursor reacting to anything that I do, and the cursor is almost always at least a foot off in a random direction from where I'm pointing my hand. So the core gameplay of just aiming at bad guys to shoot is completely broken and non-functional. You just have no idea how to aim where you want, and it's trial and error to bump the aiming cursor to where you want it. And even worse, you have to keep this cursor that you can barely control trained steady on an enemy for about a full second to communicate to the game that you want to shoot them, which makes the game even less responsive. Another thing I'm noticing, you'll waste ammo because the game will assume that you're still trying to shoot at a guy who's already been shot down. You're supposed to hold your hand with the palm to the screen like you're Iron Man firing a repulsor, and that just made the cursor jittery versus using a much more stable karate chop hand gesture. I thought maybe trying the Kinect with a toy rifle might make the aiming feel more smooth or natural, and all it did was make the cursor freak out and twitch constantly, so there's no fixing the aiming. Taking cover only mostly works, and when it doesn't, you get killed and sent back to the start of the level. I had the Kinect think that I was crouching even when I wasn't, so I'd get stuck behind cover, or it would refuse to register that I was ducking down behind cover. I think a big part of the problem is that you're expected to duck, dodge, weave, and crouch around in your living room, but if I accidentally moved any closer or further away from the Kinect, its detection would start failing even worse than normal. Crap. I'm already standing upright and it's got me sitting like behind cover. I don't know how to... I can't get taller, you fucking piece of shit! It switched me to grenades and I don't know how. The QuickTime events for kicking and jumping actually did work pretty well, but every time I needed to reload, I had to do the motion about 4 to 5 times to get it to register, and it took me a while to figure out why I kept switching to grenades on accident. Bottom line, even running one of the most basic gaming genres known to man seems beyond the Kinect's abilities because Blackwater just requires way too much precision and timing for the Kinect to be able to run it. So even playing Blackwater the way it was intended sucks monkey butt! Oh shit, first need to reload. Reload, damn it. Okay. Blackwater, the video game, is hot garbage, even if you ignore the game's problematic origins, its icky places propaganda, and the fact that it was made for a peripheral that doesn't work worth a damn. It's a 2.5-hour rail shooter that's damn near incomprehensible in its action, with no mechanics other than shoot the same enemy in the face 1,000 times. The cover mechanic is broken, cheap design makes the game a total migraine to play at times, and there's barely a story beyond 4 anonymous people fight an entire war single-handed with virtually no resistance because this was built from inception as a propaganda/recruitment tool. Although there was at least one person who really liked the game, and that was Blackwater founder, CEO, and chairman Eric Prince, who not only personally commissioned the game and worked closely on its development, but said that he saw the game as a potential franchise, and he said of the Kinect-driven gameplay, "We'll give players the chance to experience what it's like to be on a Blackwater team on a mission without being dropped into a real combat situation. This is not a training device. This is not a simulator. This is more along the lines of kids running around their neighborhood playing cops and robbers." So, children miming and simulating that they're in the battlefields of Iraq is the new cops and robbers playtime, and by your own admission, this propaganda game was aimed at kids. Granted, it wasn't the first time that Blackwater aimed at kids. I'm kidding. Of course they would want kids make-believing that they're in a war zone, because if children are on the battlefield, Blackwater can shoot them! Burn! Shoot him already. Ah, crap. Why is it? What? Crap, why is the cursor is switching side to side on me?